last minute and we're not going to be recording the audio for this, so you guys are welcome to record the audio if you want. You can record, the video if you want to. It's up to you guys. We're just keeping this real professional. We're keeping it real. That's how we roll. So, hi writing team. How you guys doing? So these are the writers of the Old Republic. I'm just going to hand it over to Daniel. And you can
let me introduce. So we've talked about this a lot. This is we've actually had a number of people roll off to work on other stuff as we sort of start scaling down. So this is not all the writers who worked on the Old Republic, but this is the writing group that is today. So going across here, we'll start with obviously in the throne is writer on the original Knights of the Old Republic and on Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. He came down to us a year ago now? Two years. God. Drew does sort of jack of all trades, helps out a lot with the junior writer, helps a lot with the KOTOR continuity, stuff like that. It's nice to have Drew there. That way when people go, you're ruining KOTOR, I go, no, it's his. His story, he can do what he wants. This is Alex Freed. Alex Freed. That'll slow us down. Alex Freed writes The Agent and has done numerous other stuff, but that is his primary focus. This is Rebecca Harwick. She is the Sith Inquisitor.
She doesn't write it. She just
Yeah, unfortunately, all Sith Inquisitors will be female and will be exactly like that.
This is Charles Boyd. He writes The Trooper. This is Mr. Nick Bokey. He is a journalist. He's an assistant writer that's helping us out in learning the trade. Mr. Tyler Hitchings. He does a whole bunch of our world work and is also new stuff with us. This is Ian Ryan. Ian also does a whole bunch of world. So what's your primary world you've worked on? Biggest world on
Aurelian.
Aurelian and Terrace?
Yeah.
Belsavis, which one? Republic. This is Hall Hood. Hall Hood wrote the chapter 1 for the Smuggler and planned out the whole sort of what the Smuggler is going to be, and wrote the entire Jedi Knight.
Not the entire Jedi Knight. Drew helped out a little bit, but yeah. He was there too.
The Jedi Knight is Hall's domain. This is Jessica. Jessica leads a bunch of our world team stuff and did a bunch of the boss work, yes. And also is the biggest bully on the team. She is the one that runs around to the world designers and goes, no!
And
yes, and Corellia. This is Randy Beagle. Randy Beagle wrote The Bounty Hunter. After I just realized that there was no possible way that I was going to write an entire class, Randy came in and saved this. This is Joe Barry. Joe Barry is the Jedi Counselor. Woo! Plus she's also British, so evil but writing Jedi.
There has to be one evil member in every team.
So yeah, I guess we can go.
So we don't need to use the mic for this. So I guess if you got a question, raise your hand. And
people
you
raise their
guys
hands.
call
I'll call people, and obviously for this one, you've got the writers' fiction questions and process and that sort of thing. If there's anything you're curious about. All right, we can go.
Just wanted to know our names.
Luda Blame.
Walk up the mic.
No,
Just from here. There's been like a lack
What? No, I'm kidding.
Who are you?
of Justin Lowe from Darth Vader. Just sort of design philosophy on the bounty hunter. I know there's been a lot of there hasn't been any sort of talk on the writing of the bounty hunter for the most part. So could you explain like how the bounty hunter approaches, for instance, the light side, dark side morality path, and then also some of the work that you've been doing on the bounty hunter?
Well, basically, bounty hunter has to deal with being an independent. I mean, they have traditionally Sith ties just basically because the Sith tend to hire more outside groups and they're less averse to, say, sending someone to go and murder someone. But generally, it's not, when you're dealing with light side, I tend to think of a code of honor, conduct. I mean, you have the option of taking someone alive. You don't have to kill everyone that you see. And in fact, you can do that in spite of whether or not you've been told otherwise and be like, if you really want to kill them, that's your problem, not mine. So or you can just be a sociopath. That's there for you.
So it's kind of like the John Marston sort of thing from Red Dead, maybe.
Yeah, kind of. It's a little less.
Good, bad, and the ugly.
You get a little more say in it. I guess you get to choose more often whether or not you're going to be saintly or a total jerk. But yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Here, I got a general question for you guys.
Sure.
I just asked how it is, but how does it feel for all of you writing the largest choose your own adventure?
Exhausting.
Seconded.
I mean, rewarding.
Yeah. I'm actually the one who has to keep my finger in all the pages
Right.
to make sure that I can go back. So that's complicated. You need a lot of more fingers.
Yeah.
Something this big. Let's see. Who is number 2 on the that came on? Is that you or is that Alex?
No.
Yeah. So Hall is the longest suffering under me.
Well, it's been fantastic. I mean, come on, it's a great story. I mean, getting to work with Star Wars, and specifically with the Old Republic, which is this fantastic era where you've got lots of Jedi and lots of Sith running around, and it's just incredibly exciting and fun. And then getting to tell these enormous epic stories that play out over hundreds of hours of playtime. It's imagine if you got to play, I don't know, like all 8 seasons of a TV series, right, where you directed the flow of the story or something like that. It's amazing, and getting to write that is amazing. Creating characters who you get to come back to and revisit. People who show up in one story and then show up again 20 hours later. Sort of thing, and setups and payoffs and reversals and this person isn't who you thought they were and that kind of thing. It's all great.
So that's actually a good general one. Let's go. We'll get back to questions in a second. Let me do a quick run through. Favorite thing you've written? Give that a stage today.
No. What question is that?
Pick something great.
The agent in general.
Every word.
A specific, planet or specific moment. I would say, my favorite aspect of it would be the sort of very, very long-term plotting, and being able to, look at a plot and look at a character arc for both the player and the surrounding, characters, and go, all right, how is this story going to address, the environment and the characters and what life as an Imperial agent is like and what that means to you over the course of such a tremendous amount of time within a single game. If we were putting out one game, it wouldn't have, if we were putting out just KOTOR or just Mass Effect, it would not have the length of that sort of character arc for long-term plotting and complications and emotional development, and that's a lot of fun to work with to have that side of the canvas.
Ms. Howard?
I can't top that.
You can all go now.
I'm gonna go with companion character.
Which one? Oh, don't say.
Trick question.
Unannounced companion character 7 is my favorite thing to write.
Yeah, that one with the hair and the eyes.
That does actually.
So not Ken Ball. Charles?
I would say, recently, my favorite thing that everyone would know about, I've been playing a lot with one of the trooper companions, Tanner Vic, and I've been really pleased to see how the writing, and especially the voice actor working with the writing, really brought this guy to life and took it so much further than even I could imagine.
It's fun to get to live with the character for a little while and see them develop
Absolutely.
and affect how they develop as a player.
It was very, very cool.
Mr. Crooked?
Well, the companion character I wrote was so much fun because everyone loves writing droids.
So Drew got to have the fun of writing T7, and we decided at one point that we didn't want the astromechs to be non-understandable. but we didn't want them to speak English, so I think, Paul, were you the first one?
No,
to-
it's Rob.
Rob, oh yeah, Mr. Rob Chesney, who's over on the marketing side now, on the community side. Yeah, Rob came up with a clever way to basically sort of write little English algorithms for how the astromechs talk, and oh, is that fun to write.
Oh, that's fun for an entire character arc. I think, actually, I really like the end of Jedi Knight Boss. There's some fun stuff in there. I had some fun with that. That's probably my actual last.
Mr. Fofi?
Most of what I've written is codex entries.
They're the
And
most.
they're awesome.
They're incredible colors. They are.
Particularly favorite ones were the ones on Tatooine. It's one of my favorite planets. Writing there, like sort of doing the world building, and Tatooine is it's a desert planet, obviously a very harsh climate, and so writing sort of the creatures and locations there, you can describe all these situations that are basically creatures and even people living there just barely on the edge of survival, and writing stuff like that is fun for me.
Sure.
I would say probably the favorite thing I've written is the Trooper's first campaign. Actually,
Don't wait to have.
so I would say.
I think everybody's seen him though. Does anyone here know who the first campaign is?
It's kind of a spoiler.
Because people have played that long. Okay, well, people are going to see when they play, but anyway.
Yeah.
First
He's
campaign.
he's a lot fun to write. And, it's a lot of fun working with campaign characters because you can get more into character development as opposed to just like, I need this done, so do it. It's more about like actually talking and being another person and building your relationship with a character. It's rewarding and fun.
Especially when they're maybe a somewhat difficult
Yeah.
character
They're kind of a jerk.
finding a way to turn them to someone you want to hang out with.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he did very well.
Mr. Wright?
My favorite would be a Flashpoint we haven't announced yet. That was awesome, and I can't wait till we do announce it. But other than that, probably the Imperial Corellia World arc. That was one of the later things I wrote on the project. It was really fun, and it was great to take some characters through an entire planet arc, and also just put on a giant scale. Like tons of big things are happening. Make as cool as you can, and have fun with some cool characters. That was my favorite that we talked about.
Really comes late in the game, and James came to us at one point and said, "Okay, here's where you get to go wild again." And that makes it super fun. I'll say for mine, still my favorite piece. I wrote that in a day. I'm not gonna say Republic Roulette, although that's the quest that's still probably. There were a number of quests that we wrote right after I got here from Dragon Age. Most of which are no longer in the game. The S&M Sith Orgy quest is gone. But Republic Roulette is still there, where people are gambling with refugees who run out into the minefield and randomly explode into the air.
But they're going to get fabulous prizes if they live.
They are going to get fabulous prizes if they live.
I really want a writer's cut though that has all that.
You have to pay extra.
The
for that.
director's cut.
There we go.
My favorite piece of Cylinder that I'm really happy with how it came about is, and this is a bit of a spoiler, probably not going to get this far. In the Bounty Hunter, on Roman Cause, I wrote the first quest where there is somebody who sends you to kill his daughter, who's a huge political liability for him. And the subtext of it is that he's very conflicted of it, and if you're paying attention to it, you can tell. And the actor does a fabulous job with it, but a lot of players, of course, are not gonna. They're like, okay, I gotta do what? All right, I'm gonna go. And he's really, really destroyed if you come back with his dead daughter. And if you do the wrong thing for the quest, and you go light side and you freeze her up instead and you bring her back, he is massively, massively grateful. And you get to actually have this real emotional moment with somebody who was doing something they didn't want to do, and you got to bring their family back together. And the actors did such a fantastic job with it, especially with his completely dippy, stupid Sith daughter, who has been completely convinced that by the rules of the universe, only a Jedi can kill a Sith, so does not understand why you're there, because it is absolutely impossible for you to kill her. And so you almost feel sorry for her. Good?
Definitely I got to write 3 romanceable companion characters, and companion character romances are always so much fun to write because, I started working as a screenwriter and I really enjoyed writing romantic comedies, and just the snappy banter. That was some of my favorite stuff in the original trilogy. Was Han and Leia arguing throughout the movies, and so being able to kind of create similar experiences. Also, before I finally settled down and married a good woman, I dated a lot of interesting women over the years, and so I brought a little bit of that to some of these characters. And
Possibly the single best brainstorm we ever had, because we have dozens of romances, because every class has their own companion characters. So instead of just having to write the very typical sort of, right down the line couple of, the good romance, the bad romance, we got to do a whole bunch of different types of romances. So the brainstorm where we got all up and talked about all the different types of awful relationships that you could have. There's some fun ones in there.
There are some good relationships too.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's some that work out really well. So.
Go date Cleo. She's a hoot. Miss Lewinsky.
I have things I like and dislike about everything I wrote, but one thing I've been looking a lot at lately that I'm pretty happy with is the boss world arc. It was challenging because we're introducing a whole new and hopefully exciting world and planet of people. But I thought it was fun to find interesting, subtle ways to introduce all those things and hopefully make you really start to like the place. And I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, Boss was kind of the terror for my team because Boss was my planet, and I had a very, very clear picture of where it was supposed to go, and then Jessica got to deal with that. Randy?
Honestly, I really love writing companion characters. Well, I can't talk about which companion characters I wrote because none of them have been announced. But, they're all like I really like being able to establish a relationship and have it be an ongoing thing that's building over time. But from world perspective, I guess Alderaan is really where I started and got my feet wet, and I like how it turned out. More face punching per capita.
Randy brought his bounty hunter to Alderaan with a simple motto, which is that every rich noble probably needs to be punched. That's my new favorite writer. Ms. Barry?
For me, it'd probably be a toss-up between, I did the codex entries for our data files in our game, the sort of the historical ones, I love finding those, but from a sort of game point of view, I had a great time actually with writing the Jedi Council on Typhon, largely because, I mean, the planet is gorgeous. It's all these rolling hills and mountains and streams and vistas.
And flesh-eating monsters.
And flesh-eating monsters. And it's got all this history, and it was also great to like go back and sort of have that, take the hero right to the beginning. Like this is the beginning of the hero's story, and you're just surrounded by this gorgeous planet, all these dangers, the social tension between the Jedi and the local villagers and the population, which is great.
Cool. Questions? There were things floating around before. There.
So, I guess a question from the Tour Syndicate community. There's a fan site called Mandalorian Girl, or the Exploits Mandalorian Girl, in which case she writes non-canon stories, and obviously not Mandalorian. And obviously, she's an amateur because she's blogging. What advice would you all have, individually or actively, for someone like her who's looking to try to, move forward and improve her craft?
Right?
Yeah. We keep writing a lot. A whole lot.
I mean, that is the big one. Is you need to write and you need to put it in front of as many people as you can who are going to tear you apart.
Right.
Right? Showing it to your mom is probably not going to be helpful unless your mom is a very mean editor. You want to get in front of people you want to understand. I think you saw Jessica trying to come up with something that was good that she'd written. I think most of the best writers tend to hate what they do. As they're like everything I ever look at when I go back to I go back to Dragon Age Origins and I look at my stuff and I'm like, oh my god, this is just a teeming flaw colony of horror. And it's important. It's really important as a writer. If you're going to try to do it professionally, learn what makes the stuff you like good.
Yeah,
What is it they're doing?
Analytically, don't
Yes.
just, you're reading for pleasure, but look at what it is that makes it enjoyable, what it is that you want to emulate, what it is that you think you can improve.
And sometimes I'll do that twice. I'll play a game that I'm really impressed by, and then I'll play it again to pick it apart.
Yeah. Especially things like reading it for your craft, not just the, oh, I love pirates is neat. My story needs pirates now. stick to what you're.
Wait, that's bad?
I'm sorry, I have to go change the entire.
I would also throw out as just one final bit is, you know, in addition to writing a lot, write as much different material as you can. Change your style all the, you know, do first person, do third person, do stream of consciousness, you know, do as many styles as you can, do as many genres as you can, do short stories, do novels, do long form serial drama, and, you know, you pick up a lot of tools and you will need them all in order to, you know, come back to a single piece and make it as good as you can.
To be clear, not everybody is this crazy. So this again is Mr. Alex Free, who also wrote our last series of 4 comics, the Blood of the Empire comics, and write short stories. all Alex does is write all the time. So.
I think the other thing, and Daniel kind of touched on it, but I think it's really important, is you need to get critical feedback. And most of the fanfic sites, and understandably, because this is stuff people do because they love, they don't give you the kind of critical, aggressive, sometimes mean feedback you need. You need to find a writer's group. There's lots of them online. You find them, and everyone in those groups understands you can give criticism, and it's not personal, right? If you wrote something and you don't get a lot of people telling you why it sucked, you're probably not getting the right feedback, because everything everyone ever writes pretty much sucks for about 5 to 10 years. It takes a long time before you become good enough to actually start making money selling stuff as a writer.
Right. You might just be a genius right out of that, but probably not.
So with all these emphasis on romance in the game, is there going to be player marriage in the game? Like marry a companion or marry each other?
There are definitely end runs for the romance for companion characters. As far as player community stuff, I know one of the first questions that the art team came to me, the people who were not tied into the system stuff, and went, why is there a wedding dress on my armor set? For the people who don't understand the RP stuff, my guess is that the tools will be in there, but there will not be a systematic approach to it yet. There's a lot of stuff that's higher in the priority. It's easy stuff to add in later, so we will probably.
But you won't be wearing your companion.
That one's still in the possibility camp.
As far as Mass Effect is concerned, we've seen how BioWare approaches their end-game content. And you just mentioned romance arcs. Continuing those romance arcs was one of those things that I was hoping that Tor would have. Can you speak more to that? Because as far as BioWare games have been in the past, they've all sort of like ended. There's like a final summation, and nothing ever happens past that point. Will you guys be writing more content for that in the future?
Yeah.
Or?
And in fact, one of the things that's really interesting is the
I'm hoping that the smuggler can be the first BioWare character class to get divorced.
Yes. There are crises, like your romances can go super bad, they can float around. One of the things that's really important to us when we started talking about the romances was all the different types of romances. So one of the things I did, since spoilers, characters we know, Mako is not really somebody who's aware of herself as a sexual person. She's always sort of been in the little girl role, and she's entirely dealing with, and spoilers, I know it's out there, it's like 3 quests in, her father figure dies. Until that is wrapped up, there is no chance to get in there, right? She's got a one-track mind for it, and she goes very, very slow. She's that is the person she's based out to be. There are other characters, particularly one that is a possibility, but you might not get with the Sith warrior, who is like, hello, there are some romances that come very fast. There are some romances that build up really slowly, and sometimes the most interesting stuff is the post-relationship stuff. I'm always mad at the romantic movie that always ends like they get together, and then the assumption is they've had like the shittiest build-up ever, and like horrible things have gone wrong. But then they finally get together and kiss, and we're supposed to believe now the relationship's going to be solid. A lot of the times, the interesting romance comes later.
You build a lot of the dialogues and things to have choices. Do you guys get to see, as people play the game, like the choices get recorded so that you can go back and see that, gosh, 90% of the people pick this choice, and you get surprised that that happens, and then you have to go back and say, how did they do that?
Yeah, so Crazy Georg has a system called Skynet.
Very friendly, very nice.
Yes, that everything that everybody does into every keystroke. So not only do we get to see everything people choose, the best one, and my favorite thing, is we get to see how long they take to choose it. So we actually get to see when people come to a certain part of the dialogue and wait for 20 minutes before they make a choice. Those tend to be the good choices.
Right, it's snack time.
Well, no, that's it. And a lot of people will walk away to get a sandwich or something, or go to the bathroom when it is the big dramatic choice sitting there in front of them. So yeah, we do get to actually see that information. And
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's fun to see.
Sometimes hilarious.
Historically, and I don't know if it's because it's testing or not, historically, people who play BioWare games, no matter what they say, tend to play 70% or more on the light side. Like, the dark side is really there to make the light side real, to make it like there really was a big choice there. At least in testing, we got a lot of evil people. So I'm not sure if it's just because the faction is there, but yeah, it's cool to see.
I was going to ask you, this isn't necessarily writing, but as far as story, with all the choices that people and players have made over the course of the game, has ever been talked about or would it be consideration that the players themselves, the outcome of the survey would be actually influence the future story somehow? Like if 90% of people killed that character, maybe that's worked into the canon of it somehow in the future expansion or something. That players actually influence the direction of the overall story.
So one of the big things, absolutely for sort of large meta stuff, one of the things we would never do, and one of the things we always have to track with the canon, is nothing becomes canon except for things you have to do. Because I don't ever want to watch somebody walk into a Flash story and be presented with a canon that is opposite of what they did. Right? At that point, your fiction explodes.
You can't invalidate people's choices and experiences when that's sort of what you built the game.
Yeah. Later, hopefully tens of years later, when the game is gone, then you can be like, guess what, Rebel is good and a guy. But not now.
For the European community, you told us about being actors and voiceovers and the emotions are really a great part of the story of the game. I asked myself, do you follow the voiceovers in other languages? So only for hearing if it is really what you supposed it has to be, or is it outsourced to some other guys who actually?
So I actually got the privilege of listening to the auditions for the player voiceover for the Jedi Knight in French, and that was fun to know what the line of dialogue was. Of course, I don't speak a word of French, but I've watched a lot of French movies, so I sort of understand it. But yeah, no, it's amazing too, because what you're looking for is vocal inflection, and it's really fun to sit there and compare these performances. When you're only listening to how the line is delivered, the emotional intent behind it, as opposed to just what the words are that are being said. So yeah, I had an opportunity to do that, and it was really fun. And I initially said, oh no, this person's clearly better. And then I started listening, and I realized, as I listened more and more, I was like, no way, this other person's much better.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, because just because BioWare has always been this weird, like, United Nations of game developers. When I came in to Dragon Age, the four guys that were lead designers sitting in the room was Manuel, who's French, Georg, who's from Germany, Yurin, who's from Israel, and then Daniel Torres from Mexico. And so we actually have on our senior staff, we have a fluent French speaker and a fluent German speaker, and they rage. They're always in there. They're always on the localized servers, and they're always putting in angry bugs. So we get a lot of feedback from it.
I think it's going to be the last question in this one.
Anyone who hasn't asked questions? Yeah, who hasn't asked anything?
So just mentioned before, but I want to ask, what is your opinion on fan fiction? Because especially with BioWare games and the romance characters and stuff, there's always a lot of fan fiction expected to say.
Who came to us from fan fiction? That's our opinion on fan fiction. We've actually had a couple of our key writers who came into us exactly from that avenue. people who write amazing fan fiction really know the stuff and are really into the game. It's exciting, and some of it's funny and some of it's just hilarious. And the thing they'll always remember is Cheryl was a writer I trained on Dragon Age. She wrote the very popular Dragon Age Origins Mage origin story. When we first brought her in, she was from Singapore. Goes to our writers come from anywhere. She was a gift wrapping clerk in Singapore who wrote a lot of fan fiction and loved our games. She walked in the very first time. In Edmonton, all the rooms are named after famous characters. She walked into Darth Malak, saw the big thing of Darth Malak, and said, "Oh, Darth Malak, I love him. I wrote fan fiction where he met Tori Amos." And only at BioWare would that be okay. We're just kind of like, okay, going on. But we love to see what people do. It's one of the big reasons. One of the things I love from the community is when they do the Fan Fridays, is they go out and they find great stuff from the community, great art, great fiction, and yeah, we look at all that stuff. A lot of it's really inspiring, and sometimes you get awesome writers from it.
If you have passion and talent, that's a potent combination.
All right, guys, I know you're probably fairly anxious to play the game, so we're going to wrap it up.
Game!
And that's it.
We're just going to stand up here for the rest of the day.
Don't choose that. That's
Got nothing else to do.